Then Stanley said, man, we should tell Matthew about it, and then I asked Stanley, tell me about what, and then Johnny smacked Stanley in the back of the head and he said, dumb fuck, and then Johnny said, we are actually having a party with a nice young lady at the cabin later, I'm sure you have heard all about it, Matthew, and we want you to swing by. And then I said, no, I am going to spend some time with Natasha today, but I might swing by later. And then I shook their hands and I took them all back to the gas station where they all work, and I waited by my phone for the call from Jennifer Hills to repair her toilet and everything else, and then she called me and I answered her and I said, yes ma'am, I will come repair everything for you. And then I went to the cabin and I repaired everything for her, but unlike the original storyline, when she came on to me and kissed me, it became sexual, and before we knew it I was now having sex with her in every position, and it practically turned into a full-blown porno where I'm just making love to Jennifer Hills. And then I said, wow, that's different, and I held her in my arms and she said, you can say that again, that was fucking wonderful. And then I said, oh, my penis is sore, and then she said, oh, I'm sorry, and then I said, it's okay, I actually need to tell you something. And then I told her about my former friends stalking her, and then I said, I am actually going to stay here with you to keep them away from her tonight, and I don't want you to let on like you know anything, but I think my former friends were planning on sexually assaulting you. And I said, don't worry, I'm not one of them, I'm a good man and I'm a former army ranger. And then she suggested that she should call the cops, and then I said I wouldn't do that because you see the sheriff is involved in it and he's a part of this too. The best thing that you and I can do is drive out of here today and it will save your life, Jennifer Hills, I promise you that. And then she said, what happens if I don't? And then I said, well, I will have to fight them, but they will have guns, I can disarm them, but they might get a lucky shot off on me and wound me, and if that happens, Jennifer, then I might not be able to protect you, so I suggest we get the fuck out of town. And then she said, say less but help me because I want you to come with me. And I said, okay gorgeous, I will help you. And then I helped her pack up everything and we drove out of town, and when Stanley went to spy on her again, she wasn't there, and I drove Jessica to the city and I reported my friends to the cops for raping helpless unarmed women, and I said I want to stay anonymous, and so does my girlfriend Jennifer Hills. And then the next day they arrested the sheriff and all my former friends after I tipped off the city police, and I saved Jennifer Hills and I decided to live with her and protect her from all danger, and I became her loving boyfriend, and she even allowed me to be with Natasha also, and now I'm in a polygamous relationship with Jennifer and Natasha, and I ended up getting both women pregnant. And because the cops found actual evidence on Stanley's digital recorder, all my former friends ended up in prison for a very long time for the felony of rape, and Stanley, Johnny, Andy, they all got life in prison because of the evidence against them. Oh, the sheriff Stork was also arrested for sodomy and rape, and because of all that, me and Jennifer Hills never saw those people again, and she lived with me and made love to me every day instead of what could have happened in the original storyline. Jennifer Hills lived a normal life with a boyfriend that truly loves her, and after everything we actually went back to that town and we bought that cabin. Little did we know that those rapists had family that now hates me and Jennifer Hills, but I bought plenty of guns for me and my new girlfriends because I don't trust anyone anymore. So one day the parents of the men I locked up for rape came knocking at my door, and they were all drunk, so I answered the door and I knocked them all out and I framed them for attempted murder, and then I took them to a nearby police department and they were all arrested for trying to murder me and my girlfriend. So I dealt with all the bad guys and their insane parents, and me and my girlfriend Jennifer Hills along with Natasha, we all continued our peaceful lives, and over time I built an underground bunker and even a panic room for Jennifer and Natasha, and I now have kids, and I am actually already rich from being a professional MMA fighter, and I married my girlfriends, and I also taught them both how to fight, and I even taught them how to kill people with lethal strikes, and I did this so no one could hurt them without getting killed themselves.